And rumors are now swirling that he's going to be fired from his job at ESPN, not because of this incident, but because of multiple incidents over the last year.
Okay, this we did not have on our 2025 bingo card. Shannon Sharpe, NFL legend, podcast prince, and professional shade thrower, is now facing a $50 million lawsuit from a woman claiming emotional manipulation and more. And just when the internet was catching its breath, boom, his ex-fiancée pops up out of the blue with what might be the most cryptic shade of the year.
The complaint seeks more than $50 million in damages. Sharpe fired back, posting alleged texts from the woman in the lawsuit on social media. One of them reads, "I want you to put a dog collar around my neck and choke me with it while you're effing me."
Louder than any press release. Because if the timing isn't a coincidence, then oh honey, we might be in for a storm. So what did she say? Well, grab your magnifying glasses because it was classic Insta-coded tea. She posted, "Some people wear suits to cover what they really are," followed by a black heart and a justice scale emoji. That's it. That's the post. And yet fans immediately went full FBI. Why? Because this is a woman who's been silent for years. She stood next to Shannon back when he was still figuring out which brand of champagne to pop on live TV.
Shannon Sharpe, in case you don't know who he is, he played 14 seasons in the NFL with the Denver Broncos, the Baltimore Ravens. He was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2011.
She's been quiet through messy headlines, podcast feuds, and questionable tweets. So for her to suddenly speak, even vaguely, right after this lawsuit drops, let's just say the group chat is in flames. Now, we're not saying she's confirming anything. In fact, she's probably just out here living her best unbothered soft launch era. But the timing, the vibe, the emoji choice? Girl, if this wasn't about Shannon, it's gotta be the biggest coincidence since we all thought conscious uncoupling was just a yoga term. And rumor has it, yes, rumor that she's been approached for more than just cryptic captions. Some sources claim lawyers have reached out. Others say she's not opposed to telling her side.
Based on the reports, and I can speak about ESPN and Disney. So I sit here before you today letting you know that they are aware.
And if that's true, buckle up, because while the legal team's calling the lawsuit a blatant money grab, and Shannon's staying relatively quiet so far, it's the ex's whisper that's stirring the loudest reactions. It's giving, "I've got stories, but I also have standards." It's giving, "I could, but I won't yet." And it's definitely giving fans a reason to refresh Instagram every 5 minutes. And here's the real twist. She might not be the only woman with something to say. And just when you think it can't get more cryptic, bam. Her story from 4 years ago starts resurfacing. Remember when she vanished from social media without warning back in 2021? At the time, everyone chalked it up to creative burnout or a desire for privacy.
It says the Jane Doe alleged various instances of toward the end of 2024 and beginning of 2025. In addition, she claimed that she had a long-lasting and abusive relationship with the former athlete.
But in hindsight, fans are now combing through old posts, interviews, even podcast cameos for any signs that the vibe was off back then. One fan account even dug up an old tweet where she joked, "Some men flex harder than their actual personalities." At the time, just spicy breakup energy. Now, people are rereading it like it's a missing line from a court filing. You cannot make this up. The speculation is spiraling fast. TikTok sleuths are editing side-by-side timelines of Shannon's ex's social silence and Jane Doe's alleged timeline of abuse. Is there a connection? Probably not, but that's never stopped the internet before. Some even think the ex's cryptic post might have been a subtle "I believe you" to Jane Doe. Others think it was a warning shot. A classy but lethal "I told y'all." And a few of the messier fan pages, they're already wondering if she's got receipts. Allegedly, and yes, allegedly, there were NDAs involved when the two split, but NDAs don't always cover vibes, and right now, hers is screaming, "I know more than I'm saying." Meanwhile, legal insiders are buzzing.
Now, this woman is alleging that Shannon Sharpe raped her multiple times over the course of a 2-year relationship. The relationship that they had was...
Sources close to the case say that both teams, yes, both, are trying to figure out whether Shannon's ex might end up being called as a witness. Technically, she's not part of the lawsuit, but emotionally, the public just made her part of the story. Some fans are begging her to come forward, saying her insight could shed light. Others are warning her to stay far, far away from the chaos. But one thing is clear, her post cracked open a door that might have stayed closed forever. And if she walks through it, the entire tone of this lawsuit could change overnight. Because what started as a single lawsuit is now looking more like the beginning of something much bigger? The internet doesn't wait for subpoenas, and neither do the opinions. Within hours of that cryptic post from Shannon's ex, Twitter timelines turned into armchair courtrooms. Theories, assumptions, edits, and emotional essays were everywhere. One tweet with over 4 million views read, "If she's saying something now, that man is nervous." Another added, "She held back for years, and this is what cracked her. We're not ready." And you know what? They might be right, because while Shannon's lawyers are coming out swinging, calling the lawsuit blackmail and false from start to finish, it's the vibe from the ex that's got people whispering. Not legal teams, not court docs. A vibe. Behind the scenes, sources say Shannon's team is scrambling, like frantically. PR firms have reportedly been brought in for narrative stabilization, which is a very fancy way of saying, help, this is spiraling. One insider claimed Shannon's reps reached out to former associates and podcast guests, asking them to publicly reaffirm his character. But here's the thing, nobody wants to be the first to jump in the fire, especially not when old clips are being dragged up and every Instagram comment is being screenshot before it's deleted.
He's kind of been in the public for the wrong reason. So in September of last year, he suffered a really rather embarrassing public moment. You guys probably remember it.
The silence from some of Shannon's celebrity friends, it's not nothing. And here's the curveball no one expected. Some fans are now wondering if other women might come forward. Not necessarily with lawsuits, but with stories, screenshots, "I dated him too," TikToks, or even vague shade posts, like Shannon's ex. In today's internet ecosystem, it only takes one viral clip for the conversation to shift. And right now, the ex-fiancée's post has cracked open a kind of Pandora's box. People are suddenly wondering if she was the exception or just the first to say something out loud. But don't expect her to drop a YouTube tell-all just yet. If she is under NDA, she's playing this masterfully, just enough to rattle the walls without technically breaking the rules. It's giving PR precision with a dash of emotional truth bomb. And the fact that one sentence stirred this much noise, that tells you just how closely people have been watching this story, waiting for someone to blink and blink. She did. But the next move, that might come from someone we haven't heard from yet. So what about Shannon? How's he holding up while the internet dissects every relationship he's ever had like it's the Zapruder film? Well, let's just say it's complicated. Publicly, he's doing what celebs always do in times like this. Smiling through studio lights, cracking jokes on ESPN, and pretending like the headlines don't exist. But privately, rumor has it the mood is very much not Club Shay Shay. Sources say he's bouncing between laser-focused and visibly rattled, depending on who you ask and what time of day it is. According to one source who's allegedly worked with his production team, the energy has shifted, like noticeably. You used to hear laughter, now it's just phones buzzing and doors closing, they said. Shannon's still showing up, but it's like he's somewhere else. And look, we get it. When you're facing a $50 million lawsuit and your ex suddenly drops a cryptic Insta story that the whole world thinks is about you, yeah, that's enough to ruin anyone's pre-show smoothie.
Who are being falsely accused to drop their receipts in the most public and aggressive way possible, because if you don't, the PR can deem you guilty before you even get to a court of law.
And it's not just the legal pressure, it's the optics. Shannon Sharpe has spent the last few years crafting a public persona that blends swagger with heart. He's the former NFL bad boy turned wise uncle who'll call out toxic masculinity one minute and defend Tom Brady the next. That brand doesn't play well with serious accusations, especially ones involving emotional manipulation, power imbalances, and allegedly abuse. The ex's post didn't confirm anything, but it cracked a hole in the image, and now everything he says or doesn't say feels like it's being viewed through a foggy lens. Now, insiders say Shannon is trying to regain control of the narrative. There are whispers of potential, interviews, statements, even a sit-down podcast episode where he might address things in his own words. But here's the problem. The longer he waits, the louder the speculation gets. And with his ex-fiancée's post still echoing across the internet like a distant thunderclap, any move he makes now will be judged in the shadow of what she almost said. Because when silence gets this loud, even the smallest noise can sound like a confession. And if you think the internet's letting this simmer, think again. The reactions to Shannon's ex-fiancée's post? Instant wildfire. Twitter turned it into a quote meme. TikTok gave it a moody soundscape. Instagram fan accounts turned it into a literal Pinterest mood board. Because for a generation that speaks fluent subtext, her suits hiding secrets caption didn't need to name names. Everyone knew what it was about, or at least they think they do, and that's the dangerous part. Perception is now driving the whole machine. Fans are now unofficially divided. On one side, you've got the loyalists, Team Shannon, defending him with the same passion they used to defend LeBron's legacy. To them, the ex's post was petty, vague, and perfectly timed to cause damage. If she really cared, she'd speak with facts, not fortune cookie quotes, one user posted. But across the digital aisle, a whole different narrative is brewing. These are the people saying she stayed silent while it wasn't her story.
This is his statement that he did not mean it. It was in the heat of the moment, in the middle of an argument.
But now that someone else is speaking up, maybe she's ready to show solidarity. It's less about her breaking news and more about her breaking rank. And the more her post gets dissected, the more new theories emerge. Some fans think she's warning Shannon to tread carefully. Others believe she might be trying to hint at a pattern without ever putting herself directly in the spotlight. And then there are the chaos agents, of course, posting, she's got the receipts and she's just warming up. Are they right? Who knows? But the possibility alone is giving this story legs longer than a red carpet interview. Meanwhile, Shannon's digital army is trying to drown out the noise, highlighting screenshots, podcast quotes, anything to push a more favorable timeline. But it's like trying to plug a dam with a teaspoon, because when a public figure's ex drops even the slightest sliver of shade during a scandal, the internet will turn it into a 10-part documentary whether she meant to or not. And here's the thing, we're only hearing from one ex-fiancé right now. What happens if someone else from Shannon's past decides to speak up? Because if there's one thing we've learned about scandals this size, it's never just one voice for long. By now, what started as a single Instagram story has allegedly snowballed into a corporate crisis. And no, we're not being dramatic. Okay, maybe a little. Because while Shannon's reps are busy issuing legal denials and reposting spicy old tweets to prove his character, ESPN execs are reportedly in full-on caution mode. According to whispers from someone who knows someone very close to the production floor, meetings are getting awkwardly quiet. Like strategy decks and side eyes kind of quiet. Here's what's got insiders nervous: the brand. Shannon Sharpe isn't just a TV personality. He's a walking brand partnership machine, energy drinks, luxury watches, sports betting apps, even that ultra-premium cognac line he's been hyping lately. Yeah, all of that could be at risk. One marketing consultant said, sponsors don't need guilt, they need certainty. And right now, there's none. Translation? That cryptic Instagram post from the ex wasn't just shade. It might have accidentally triggered a review clause in 3 separate endorsement contracts. And let's be honest, no one wants to be the brand that's stuck around after things get worse. Meanwhile, over at ESPN, execs are reportedly debating whether to pause Sharpe's segments, especially if more public noise starts crowding out the sports commentary. On paper, he's just facing a civil suit.
Sharpe even figured out how to get into Doe's apartment complex without her permission.
But online, he's the trending topic people can't stop side-eyeing. If more women come forward or even just post suggestive shade like his ex did, that's a PR nightmare with no off switch. And in today's click-hungry world, one person's IG story can lead to another's canceled brand deal real fast. And don't even get us started on the internal tension. Staffers allegedly feel like they're tiptoeing around landmines. No one knows what we're allowed to say. One anonymous team member shared, "It's like we're all waiting for someone to officially tell us we're in a mess, even though we obviously are." Yikes. The thing is, this kind of silence from inside a normally loud machine, it speaks volumes. Shannon's ex didn't drop a bomb, she lit a match. And now everyone's watching to see if the whole thing goes up in smoke, because sometimes the quietest moments spark the loudest consequences. If you think this is just about one woman's lawsuit and one ex's moody Instagram story, think again, because what's bubbling under the surface of this Shannon Sharpe situation is way bigger than one man. We're talking about the entire celebrity relationship playbook getting put under a microscope. The fame, the money, the age gaps, and the power dynamics nobody really wants to admit exist until something blows up. Let's be real. Shannon was in his 50s when this alleged relationship with Jane Doe began. She, according to court documents, was 20. And while May-December relationships aren't new in Hollywood, the public is a lot less chill about them now. Just ask Leonardo DiCaprio, or literally any celebrity who's ever dated someone who's barely old enough to remember VHS tapes. Suddenly, people aren't just asking, did something bad happen? They're asking, was the setup already problematic? And that's a very different kind of heat. This is where Shannon's ex comes in again, whether she meant to or not. Her post didn't just add fuel to the fire, it changed the way people are looking at his entire dating history. The age gap discourse is loud right now, and her silence-breaking moment has fans dragging up every interview, every old paparazzi sighting, every mentor moment with younger women. And while none of that proves guilt, it does shift the mood. People are asking questions they didn't ask before. And that's exactly what sponsors, networks, and media execs hate most: unpredictable narratives. Even advocacy groups are allegedly taking notice. There's chatter, unconfirmed but loud, that some organizations have flagged the case for public commentary, especially if Shannon remains on air without addressing it. And if more stories emerge, even just whispers, expect statements, panel debates, op-eds, the whole cultural accountability circus. We've seen this before. It starts with a single allegation, then suddenly we're having a national conversation about power, consent, and the blurry lines between mentorship and manipulation.
Pro Football of Famer and Club Shay Shay host Shannon Sharpe is being sued for $50 million, and he's being accused of SA and battery.
And the wildest part? Shannon still hasn't said anything about his ex's post. But in this new era of internet truth-seeking, his silence might be speaking louder than any defense ever could. The thing no one's saying out loud, but everyone feels, is that this whole situation is taking a toll. Not just on Shannon Sharpe, not just on the woman behind the $50 million lawsuit, but on everyone caught in the blast radius. And at the center of it all, a lawsuit that hasn't even reached the courtroom yet, but is already playing out like a primetime drama across the timelines, group chats, and Reddit threads of the world. Sources close to Shannon say he's shaken. Not in public, he's still showing up for First Take, still cracking sports jokes like nothing's burning behind the scenes, but insiders claim there are moments backstage when the mask slips. One alleged production assistant even told a friend. He stares at his phone between segments like it's a time bomb, and maybe it is. Every notification could be another headline, another leak, another twist. Because once a story like this breaks, there's no going back to normal. But let's not forget, there's another side to this. The plaintiff, Jane Doe, is reportedly seeking therapy for PTSD symptoms, flashbacks, and anxiety. Her attorneys say she's dealing with nightmares, security concerns, and a level of scrutiny that would shake anyone. And it's not just about what happened, allegedly, between her and Shannon. It's the reaction, the comments calling her a liar, the people picking apart her story before it's even been heard in court, the endless social media hot takes. Because once you're part of a high-profile case like this, your trauma doesn't stay private. It becomes public property. And then there's Shannon's ex, who may have just been living her peaceful, NDA-approved almond latte life until one lawsuit dropped and suddenly she's the unofficial narrator of a scandal she never asked to be part of. Now, her every move is being watched, every old post reanalyzed, every silence turned into a clue. And the internet, it has a way of making people speak, even when they never planned to. Because once this kind of heat hits your name, there's no such thing as off the record anymore. And something tells us the fire's not done spreading. So what happens now? Because if you think this ends with one court filing and a couple spicy Instagram posts, you're in for a plot twist. We're now entering the part of the scandal where decisions are made behind closed doors, and none of them come without consequences. Does Shannon fight this in court, line by line, image by image? Does he risk more personal messages being aired out, more former flames stepping forward, and more headlines that have nothing to do with football? Or does he settle, quietly, privately, without admitting guilt, but with a price tag that could follow him forever? Insiders say it's already being discussed.
Tony Busby is on this case, right?
And he's a Houston-based attorney.
Houston-based attorney.
Been here on The Factor several times.
Yes, and we've seen him file several lawsuits against the likes of P. Diddy, against Jay-Z.
The settle versus stand firm debate. Because while Shannon's team insists they're ready for a full-on courtroom battle, legal experts are whispering that the discovery phase could get messy. We're talking phone records, location logs, private texts, maybe even home security footage. And in the age of the internet, every crumb is a headline. Every grain of context becomes a viral thread. Even winning the case doesn't guarantee winning back the court of public opinion. Then there's the money math. This isn't just about Shannon's personal brand, it's about podcast empires, TV contracts, sponsorship clauses, and nine-figure deals that could evaporate if things turn ugly. And if you think execs don't run reputation risk reports, think again. The optics of this case are already rough. But if new names get dragged in, or worse, if Shannon's ex says anything more, it could snowball into a PR disaster of epic proportions. And let's not forget the emotional side. According to one unnamed associate, Shannon's mood has been unpredictable, high energy 1 minute, withdrawn the next. He's been described as deeply frustrated, blindsided, and even betrayed by the silence of people he once called close. Whatever happens next isn't just about legal strategy, it's about ego, identity, legacy. And if we've learned anything from past celebrity scandals, it's that pride and pressure don't always mix well. So now the question becomes, how far is Shannon willing to go to protect what he's built? And more importantly, how much more noise is about to break before someone finally says something on the record? At the center of this firestorm isn't a courtroom yet. It's not even Shannon Sharpe. It's a woman who posted one cryptic sentence and accidentally detonated 1,000 think pieces. Whether she meant to or not, Shannon's ex-fiancée did something the legal system hasn't done yet. She made people feel something. Anger, curiosity, sympathy, suspicion. Suddenly, what felt like another scandal in the endless scroll of celebrity drama felt personal. And maybe that's why this one hits different. Because it's not just about Shannon versus Jane Doe. It's not just about NDAs, lawsuits, and legal teams. It's about the stories we almost hear, the ones whispered between emojis, the ones people try not to say, but somehow still manage to scream. Her post was vague, but the timing, the symbolism, the silence that followed, it's become louder than any press conference. And it's forced fans, followers, and the industry itself to ask, how much have we missed? And how much is still hiding beneath the surface? Shannon may be prepping for court, but the court of public opinion has already held its first hearing. The real danger now, it's not just what's true, it's what people believe is true. One story sparks another, one whisper becomes a pattern, and once that happens, once people start connecting dots you didn't even know were there, the narrative doesn't belong to you anymore. It belongs to the internet, to the fans, to us. So where does it go from here? Will more voices step forward? Will Shannon finally respond with something deeper than a tweet or a sports debate segment? Will his ex-fiancée ever tell the full story? Or will her silence stay louder than the truth? Here's what we know. This isn't over. Not even close. And whatever happens next, one thing is certain. This story has already changed the way people see Shannon Sharpe. But now we want to hear from you. Do you think Shannon's ex knows more than she's letting on? And do you believe we've only seen the beginning of this scandal? Tap that like button, hit subscribe, and stay tuned because the next video on your screen is waiting. And trust me, you won't believe what's coming next.